I can't keep doing this on my own. With these people.
For the one that tops them all, it's the story of Herbie, the screen's first four-cylinder star.
What are you doing with my face?
See, Jody, he is kinfolk.
Practically kissing cousins.
Akim Zamirov is Bad Chief Tanamashu. See Dick Van Dyke as the most comically hilarious island castaway of them all.
Who are you?
I'm called Exeter. I'm a scientist like yourself.
But you'd like that, wouldn't you, Sonny? Who are you?
I'm more than a king or man.
Whoa, wait a darn second here, Buckaroo. This comparison ain't fair. You done picked all the good modern movies and compared them to a heap of old mediocre movies.
Correct. That comparison wasn't fair. It was purposely designed to reverse the survivorship bias and the unfair comparison bias, to try to show, in a slightly exaggerated way, what so often happens in discussions about old versus new films, where someone compares classics spanning a multi-decade period against Transformers and Twilight. The unfair comparison bias pits the best of one group against the worst or average from another. Let's try a similar thought experiment that tries to reverse those biases, but keep in mind that this experiment can't reverse a myriad of other strong biases, like nostalgia or the inertia of currently held beliefs, but as a step towards helping us be cognizant of what veils our objectivity. Let's look at the theatrical releases of bad and mediocre movies from 1 year 50 years ago. Compare them to good movies of the past 20-ish years. Now, just for fun, let's look at all of the theatrical releases from 1970 instead of just the average ones. How many of these movies have you seen, or even heard of? There's a reason for it. Older films also have the added advantage of having had more time to be written about in film criticism, and have highly influential people praise them, leading to a kind of canonization. Once canonized, no one wants to be that guy looking like an ignorant fool, talking about how the tears in the rain monologue is like that. This expert bias tends to percolate its way into everyone's favorite movie list, which then leads us into this related phenomenon, which is what happens when expert bias sees bandwagon bias looking all pretty and cute, and 9 months later you get film school bias. Which leads to these movies being on your public top 6 favoriteest movie list, even though if anonymous hacked your Netflix watch history, this is what they will find.
Oh, never eat you another piece of candy ever again.
High five, don't do it.
Yeah, okay, so maybe we human beings are as logical as we think we are. But dude, get to which is better. Old movies are new movies.
Okay, here's what I think. I think we have more to explore in part 2 before I give you the objectively true, super unbiased truth about which is better. While you're self-reflecting about how it's cool that other people are biased, but luckily you're not, ask yourself this.
Watching closely. This conversation can serve no purpose anymore. Bye.
I'm Bobby and we watch the old movies. As I've been doing this channel, a lot of people have asked me, do I ever watch new movies? And the answer is, of course not. But I understand they're in sound now. Yes, I watch new movies too. And some of them are really excellent. But if I was forced to choose one or the other, I would choose all. And I thought long and hard about it. And here are my top 10 reasons why I think old movies are better. Warning, this list is made up of generalizations, so there are exceptions to every rule. Also, it is geared more towards mainstream Hollywood films, as opposed to independent or foreign films. Reason number 10. We already know what the good ones are. Every year, there are some great movies, some good movies, and some that stink. But through the test of time, we already know what the great old movies are, because they still survive. They're still shown on TV, like how It's a Wonderful Life is always shown on TV around Christmas time. When a movie is 71 years old and is still shown on TV every year, you know that's a really good sign. Also, they're available on DVD. They have merchandise, like how the Universal Monsters had the Funko guys. And they're on lists like the American Film Institute's Top 100 Movie list. So you don't have to pick out a movie and hope it's good. In a couple minutes of research, all the great old movies are picked out for you. Reason number 9, they have opening credits. There's a trend in modern films to skip the opening credits and jump right into the action. But they're really missing out. Opening credits do more than just tell you who's in the movie. Between the music and the images, they set the tone and get you in the mood for what you're about to watch. When you watch the opening credits to the 10 Commandments, bum, 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 you are ramped up for a historical epic. Or when you watch the opening credits to Psycho, you feel like you're going to get a glimpse into a man's insanity. It builds your anticipation of things to come, sometimes in very creative ways, and it's part of the fun of watching a movie. Reason number 8, you learn about history. When you live in a society, sometimes you're so entrenched that you can't see the forest for the trees. But when you know your history, you have a more well-rounded perspective. When you watch old movies, you just kind of pick up things. Not necessarily major events like you're taught in history class, but little things. Like the attitudes that people had, the fashions, the customs, and different aspects of how life used to be. I learned something very fascinating when watching All About Eve. So you're going to Hollywood. Why? Is it the money? 80% of it will go to taxes. I was never taught that in school, and I never would have thought to look up what the tax rate was in 1950. But when you watch All About Eve, you find it out. And then you can do further research, and then you have a more informed opinion of the United States tax system. Reason number 7, the shots are longer. According to the Century of Cinema website, the average shot length in modern films is 2.5 seconds. The average shot length in films from 1930 is 12 seconds. And there's a bit of a hike in the 1950s. While the shorter shots make for faster pacing, you don't get to see the actors interact as much. In the old days, actors got to exchange quite a bit of dialogue with each other. You get more out of their performances this way because you can see them act and react. And by just looking around in the shot, you get to see for yourself the relationships between the characters. So you know that the ghost and Mrs. Lear and the king and Anna love each other, not because of the lines or the specific shot the director wants you to look at, but because of how they act when they're together. It makes their relationship seem more real, and as a result, you care about them more. Reason number 6, the use of implication. In modern films, you can show sex, violence, bowel movements, almost anything you can think of. You might get an R rating, but you can still show it. But in the old days, there was a production code. This started in 1930, but it really got strict in 1934. And what it was a code of conduct of what you could show and what you could not show in movies. So the directors and writers would find ways to outsmart the production code. And they did this by just implying controversial material. In the movie Rope, the main characters, who are killers, are gay. Now Hitchcock couldn't just come out and say they were gay, so he makes the post-murder scene like a post-romantic evening scene, where Brandon lights up a cigarette and feels invigorated, and then Philip feels vulnerable and wants to keep the lights off for a moment. That is such a creative way to get the message across, and they would do this kind of thing all the time. So the stories would have these extra layers to them. They don't take the time to explore them. Instead, you have to read between the lines. So it has more of a book-like quality, where you're mentally engaged in the story. Also, comedians like Mae West and Groucho Marx would use dirty humor, but once again would just imply the naughtiness, with plays on words, so it never seemed vulgar. We took some pictures of some native girls, but they wouldn't develop. We'll be back again in a couple of weeks. What an ingenious way to say you're a dirty old man. I'm not in favor of censorship, but I absolutely love the creativity it inspired. Reason number 5, no computer-generated images, or as the hipsters call it, CGI. Now I know some old movies do have some bad special effects. A classic example is in old horror movies, where they have a rubber bat on a string and push someone to the swing. But there's bad CGI too. And for my money, bad CGI is when you can tell it's CGI, and it looks just as stupid as that rubber bat on a string. But at least you can tell the rubber bat is really there. It has weight to it, and it kind of charm with the laugh at it. Whereas all bad CGI is distracting. Now some CGI is terrific, but on the same token, some of the practical effects in old movies are terrific too. Like the tornado in 1939's The Wizard of Oz, or the early green screen effects in 1933's The Invisible Man, and the stop-motion animation in 1933's King Kong. They might not always look perfect, but the fact that they pulled them off with the limited technology that they had available gives them a how did they do that quality that CGI doesn't have, because you know how they did it. Taking aluminum, latex, foam rubber, and rabbit fur, and putting them together with your bare hands and some tools, and creating an unforgettable monster like King Kong is just cooler to me, and has more character to it than creating a monster in a computer does. Reason number 4, they could be in black and white or in color. They've been making color movies since the 30s, but color did not become mandatory until color television became popular. So for a very long time, it could go either way. Black and white was cheaper, so that was a factor, but another factor was what suited the story better. Black and white has this amazing ability to create a heightened reality, an atmosphere, and to show the inner demons and desperations of the characters. And certain stories are just perfect for it. Just look at the spooky atmosphere that black and white creates in Dracula, or the mood that black and white creates in Casablanca, with all those great shadows. All the gin joints and all the towns and all the world. She walks into mine. These images are more powerful in black and white. Now when a movie was better suited for color, and it had the budget, they would do it in color, and they'd make good use of it. Musicals and some period films were often done in color. And it absolutely makes the forest and Robin Hood just come alive. And it gives a fantasy quality to movies like The Wizard of Oz and Singing in the Rain.